Hey, thanks for joining us today. My name is Brandon, and welcome to Make Me Like This, where I try to convince my friend Jeff to show appreciation for something he doesn't naturally care for. In some episodes, he's going to try to provide me with compelling reasons why I should start liking something that I currently don't. At the end of each episode, we'll ask the question, do you now like this? And if the answer is yes, the presenter gets a point. If not, the other person gets a point. We'll keep a running tally of the points and maybe someday do something with them. So, Jeff, are you ready to start this?
I'm ready to start this. I'm Jeff.
Okay, cool. Well, today on our premiere episode, I wanted to talk about theme parks. Now, I'm not talking about, carnivals or even, you think about the category of Cedar Point. I'm talking about the main theme parks in Orlando that are completely themed with intellectual property, mostly Disney World and Universal Studios. So, a few years ago, you and I traveled to Orlando for a conference. Do you remember that?
I did.
Yeah, and we had an off day, one of the days, and we decided, the group of us, we're going to go to one of the theme parks. And we decided we're going to go to Hollywood Studios because that was the day that had the longest operational hours. They were open later than the others. And we thought, hey, we're going to spend $80 and we're going to spend half a day in the theme parks.
I thought it was Epcot. We go to Epcot? Or
we went to Epcot a different night for a party that we were invited to.
Shows you how much I enjoy theme parks. Okay.
This is why I wanted to talk about this. So we finished with our obligations for that day's conference, and we head over to Hollywood Studios. We get inside. First thing we do is we get in line for the Star Wars ride called Star Tours. Star Tours is a simulation ride where the room kind of moves, and the screen in front of you
right now.
The screen in front of you is large, and it looks like you're actually traveling through space and stuff. So we get on that very first ride, 5 minutes into our visit, and you hobble off of the ride and slump into a corner and say, I'm done. I'm done. You were feeling nauseous. You were feeling sick from that ride, right?
Yeah. And that was after you guys heard me say, listen, I get motion sickness real easy, so let's pick a ride.
Yeah.
That's
easy. There's not a lot.
It's going to be easy.
Well, and I think in our mind it was like, okay, this, there's simulated motion, but it's not real jerking back and forth. But it was actually more jerking back and forth than we probably remembered. So.
And for me, it's not just actual movement; it's perception of movement too,
which is a huge thing for that ride, right?
Yeah.
So you are sick. You decide you're not gonna go on any rides the rest of the time, and we kind of feel bad, but we also paid $80, so we wanted to go on some more rides. So you kind of just walked around, sat on benches, watched people go by as we were going on the Tower of Terror and the Aerosmith ride. It boggles my mind that there's a whole ride dedicated to Aerosmith, but that's another topic.
I was
kind of
glad that I vomited when you guys wanted to go on the rock and roller coaster.
Yeah. Well, and so like as we're walking through the park, you made a comment that really stuck with me and said, you know what? If my future kids one day say, Dad, I want to go to Disney, you're going to say, no, that's stupid, and you're stupid for wanting to do that. And you were saying, look at all these parents around here, like with their kids. This is the dumbest thing. And you had a very sour attitude.
I also had no kids at that point, and I was also extremely sick and under duress.
Yes.
So yes.
So while I understand your dissatisfaction in that moment and where you're coming from, I wanted to share a couple of reasons why I love theme parks, and I hope that this gives you some context. So when I was a kid, I've got 3 sisters, my family would take us probably every other year to Florida. And, we would do Disney, we would do Universal, and we had a great time. It was like one of the only times that all 6 of us were together, uninterrupted, no sports, no school, birthday parties, whatever. It was just, this was our time. And yes, you can do that, renting a cabin on the lake. You can do that going to Gettysburg. But for us, just being surrounded in these worlds, these well thought out, designed environments that are just 100% manufactured for entertainment. Anywhere you look, there's you can close your eyes, spin around, and point to some random corner, and the level of detail and thought that's put into just the design of that corner surpasses anything else that I've encountered anywhere else. Even if you look at the garbage cans match the theme of the land that they're in. There's just so much detail that someone like me, who's really attuned to that, really enjoys. So wanting to provide that same bank of memories for my kids is really important to me. I haven't been, before I had kids, but was still an adult, we didn't go down to Disneyland. I haven't had that experience, but it was important to me that I take my kids so that they have the fond memories of those trips that I do. So that's like my main reason for wanting to continue to go there. It's not cheap. It is expensive as hell, but to me, that's why I save throughout the year, is so we can provide these experiences for our kids. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I think is really important, and especially to me as someone with a food allergy, Disney World and Universal have accessibility at the top of their minds. Like from a pure business standpoint, you don't want to exclude anybody, because that's thousands more dollars for each person you get through the turnstiles. But think about if you had a child who was severely allergic to peanuts or to wheat or something. There's a limited amount of things that you can do to wheat.
Wheat.
Yeah,
okay.
Or that.
Wheat.
That's true.
Okay.
Wheat. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is an environment where you go to any restaurant in any of the theme parks and you say, hey, I've got a wheat allergy, I've got a dairy allergy, I've got a peanut allergy. And the chef comes out and says, okay, here's the options we can make for you. We have a dedicated space for these, so there's no cross-contamination. And, we're going to make you something. Albeit a $20 hamburger. But
Did you enjoy being put on the spot like that, though?
No, I hated that. I did hate that, and it creates a tension between the people in the line behind you, which I don't like. But I think the ability to get food that I can eat at no greater inconvenience than being, asked, what is it that you want from this special menu, is super worth it. And beyond just like dietary needs, people with, people are in a wheelchair. They've got a separate ride entrance for all of the rides that they can, skip the line queue and get right up to it. And, if it's like the Peter Pan ride, they've got a special boat floating through the air that can accommodate a wheelchair. So you don't even have to get out of your chair. You just roll right onto the boat. Stuff like that. It's just, there's something for everybody, it feels like, except for people who are extremely motion sick.
Unless it's like if you have a adverse reaction to the product itself.
You mean like the
experience itself?
Yeah. Well, what is your adverse reaction though?
My adverse reaction is, it seems like the most enjoyable experiences have something to do with motion.
Yeah.
And you excluded Cedar Point.
Yeah.
And I get your distinction. Basically, it needs to have a constant theme that runs throughout everything.
Yeah.
Disney is a theme park because the theme is Disney.
Yes.
Cedar Point is not a theme park because the theme varies depending on the ride.
It's a collection of thrill rides.
Right.
Yeah.
A water park, is that a theme park? Since the theme is
No.
water rides?
I don't think so, because similar to Cedar Point, you have a collection of different rides that don't overlap in any way. One's a wooden ride, one's a steel ride, one goes really high, one goes upside down.
There's a water park in Wisconsin Dells. Wisconsin Dells is kind of like the mecca of water parks, called Noah's Ark.
Yeah, that I would consider a theme park.
It's like on the fringe of that.
Yeah.
Either way, even if they're not theme parks, the the self-contained, we're coming here for this kind of thing, and it offering experiences that you want to take advantage of because you've paid money to be there, and you make it like a day, and you just really hit it hard. Something beyond just the fact that I have horrible motion sickness. I can't look down in a car. So if I get on a ride that gyrates more than a moving vehicle, that bothers me.
Yeah.
And I said before, it's not just the movement, it's the visual. So if I look straight forward in a car, I'm good because nothing's changing all around.
Right.
But I'm susceptible to whatever my mind interprets from what I'm seeing and everything like that. I've also not done it since I've had sinus surgery.
Oh.
And I have better equilibrium now that I don't have a sinus infection for 4 years.
Yeah.
And that was within the realm of that.
Of your last visit.
I'll admit, I'm a bit of a curmudgeon.
Yes.
I without all of those things, I'd be I'm susceptible to being unhappy being in a place where everyone else is happy.
Sure.
But those things are big barriers for me because Julie and I have talked, my wife Julie loves thrill rides.
Yeah.
Loves Cedar Point and has made it clear that we're going there probably multiple times throughout our children's lives.
Yeah.
You know,
as long as 2 children.
I have 2 children now since
that incident.
The infamous Star Wars ride that left me doubled over.
Yeah.
And we kind of talk about our clear roles. Julie is going to go on the rides with the kids when they want to go on rides. And when the kids are scared or want a break or whatever, they're going to hang out with me.
They're going to watch YouTube videos with you on the bench at the exit to the ride.
They're going to be doing that. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely not going to be full-on parent in that mode. I'm going to be like, take this device, take your time.
Yeah.
And so that's okay. Like, as far as like, I have changed my mind since I've had kids. I don't want to deprive my kids of that experience.
Right.
I love magic and wonder. I like Disney a little bit more than perhaps Universal. To be honest, I haven't had a large sampling size.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever been to Cedar Point, I know it's not a theme park.
Yeah.
But the Raptor's right there when you come in. I went on the Raptor, and I felt like I was hungover for 3 days.
Right, yeah.
I was messed up from that Star Wars ride for a couple of days.
I
wasn't the same. It's not like I got over it within a couple of hours.
Yeah, I felt bad about that.
But that torpedoed my experience where I wasn't able to even engage and give it a second chance while I was there.
Yeah.
That's the difficulty is I wasn't able to figure out like what are just the experiences because I'm all about magic and believing in magic, and I think it spurs creativity. So for my kids, I want that for my kids. And especially if they can partake in those rides and they enjoy those rides without getting scared.
Yeah.
Or like as long as they choose to go on that and have that experience, I want them to have that experience, especially since they have a willing parent to go with them.
Yeah. And to me, it's less about the rides than the experience itself. We just went to Universal late this summer, and leading up to it, as a family, the 4 of us read and watched the Harry Potter books and films together because there's a major faction of Universal that's Harry Potter themed. Mm-hmm. So going through the line queue for the Harry Potter ride, where you're essentially walking through Hogwarts and you're inside what looks exactly like the film version of Hogwarts, is really fun and special. And, I don't know if there's any particular character or television show that your kids are really into, but imagine it is a Disney property. If it's Cars, if it's Toy Story or something like that, they have a whole Toy Story land. So if your kids are really, really into Toy Story, and you take them there, and they get to stand next to Buzz and Woody and walk through Andy's bedroom. That is something that they're never going to forget, especially at that age. And that, seeing Disney through the eyes of my children for the first time was worth every stinking penny, and it was a lot of pennies to go there each time. And that to me was like, just watching their eyes sold me on this was a wise investment, because we talk about it all the time. We have pictures around our house from various locations around, from our vacations that we've taken to both of those properties. That to me is worth all of the trouble and all of the financial obligation that it takes to get there. And another I actually have really bad motion sickness.
Dude.
And I have a hard time with a lot of rides that I go on anyway because I like the experience of it. So we went to Universal again at the end of the summer, and there were rides that I went on with the family, and I just closed my eyes the whole time. With the simulator rides, you can close your eyes, and it's not as bad because mostly it's the visual element that makes you feel like you're moving and stuff.
I should have done that.
I should have told you that. But
I think someone might have even told me to do that.
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
But the experience leading up to the ride and just being in the parks, walking around Jurassic Park or Harry Potter Land, whatever it's called.
I like the voyeuristic opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
If I can just be in a space and walk around and experience it, I like it. I don't like when I need to partake in the same exact experience of everyone else.
Yeah.
I don't like being locked into a seat, even if it's not violently shaking.
Sure.
If it's violently shaking, I want to get the hell out of there.
Do you feel claustrophobic?
I don't like. It's not so much claustrophobic. I don't like people, but I'm not like scared of them, like crushing me or anything. I don't have claustrophobia.
Okay.
I like when you talked about these worlds and you can step into the world.
Yeah.
I like that. What I don't like is a stupid character coming up in my face and making it all corny.
Yeah.
Right? And interacting with me in character when clearly I don't have the same obligation to that person. And depending on my mood, like I just want to observe that character being that character.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to be in your little game. That's not fun for me.
Yeah, but I think that there's so much less of that.
Yeah.
Because they have, aside from the rides, they have lines where you just go to take pictures with the characters, if it's The Simpsons or if it's Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse.
Which is cool for kids.
It's cool for kids, but it is 90 degrees out most days, and they're wearing a full-on felt suit. They're not trying to walk around and engage with people. They're standing on a cement plot with velvet ropes around, and people are standing in line to take pictures. I think they can only stand out for like 10 minutes at a time. Then they have to go back and then switch out, and then another person comes out.
So it's not the haunted house treatment.
No, not at all.
Haunted houses are the worst.
Oh, I hate those.
Because I don't want you in my life, man. Like, get out of my space.
Yeah.
Don't try to scare me.
Yeah. I don't want some 15-year-old kid jumping out at me. And
I've punched people in the throat. I've like instinctively and was like fearful that I was going to catch a lawsuit or something like that.
No, they know what they're getting into once they sign up for that gig.
Right.
Yeah. Get punched at and then encourage them to go to the T-shirt shop on the way out.
Honestly, I don't think it's hard for me to say that I like the idea of those things. Everything that you talked about, I could find appreciation for. The planned environments, I have a appreciation for how cool that is to just associate with things I know, but I also am really into the effort that it takes to design those things. I'm a huge fan of going to Washington, D.C. for similar reasons. It's a planned city. Yeah. And Disney World is no different, right? They're both built on swamps.
Yes. And they're both started by racists.
And and they both have outlandish characters.
Yes.
So I like that part. I like the kids aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want my kids to wonder. I want them to have the opportunity to wonder.
To experience magic, like real magic.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, as real as magic can
To
be.
them, yeah.
Yes. And that's the thing, is you have to have empathy for a kid's position.
Right.
Like, thinking about the things I was interested in as a kid, those things are way more special for you when you're between 10 and 15, 10 and 13.
Yeah, right.
So like 8 and 13,
Yeah.
8 and 12 maybe. We could lock down the time frame.
That's
it's
cool.
not interesting conversation.
Yeah. Definitely before you have pubes.
Definitely before you start becoming the person you're going to be
Yes.
later in your life. And you need to keep that in mind, because as you get older, magic is beaten out of you.
Yeah.
As you go through life.
Yeah, you look for ways to reverse engineer the magic, to dispel the magic.
And at that point in time, I was the furthest away from that point in my own childhood that I could possibly be.
Oh, yeah.
Without actually having my own kids to live that through.
Oh, for sure.
And the big thing ultimately that makes me okay with with going to a theme park like Disney or Universal someday is that I know that my partner is going to play the role that I can't. Mm-hmm. And that when we go there, we're so supportive of each other that we can help to mitigate the stress that comes with it. Because it is stressful for me to commit that concentrated amount of time to going to something like that where inherently I do not enjoy it for myself.
Right.
But I wonder if I went to those parks, did not engage in any rides, but only in experiences, if I would change my mind.
Yeah.
Because I like eating food.
Yep.
And I like magic.
You can drink your way around the country and the world in Epcot.
Epcot's pretty cool.
Epcot's dope.
If I could spend the time walking around that lake, just eating more food and drinking more drink, that would be pretty cool. And then you watch the fireworks at night, and then you go to bed.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of
I can't imagine kids enjoy Epcot. They're like, let's go to Epcot, Dad. Can we go back to Epcot?
That's probably why we put the Frozen
today?
ride there, because to get the kids in the door. That's where the Frozen ride is.
Oh, so I just need to make my kids enjoy Frozen.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, hey, they got the Frozen ride there.
Yep.
And then we go to the Frozen ride and we say, hey, let's see what else they got in the back of the park.
It's delightful. The movie and the ride.
I remember having a chicken leg at Epcot.
Big turkey leg. Yeah. Those are $15, but they're tasty.
And that's the other thing too, is the cost does not govern my decision making.
Oh yeah.
I know that it's expensive, and I know that we can't do it very often.
Yeah.
But I do not dislike those places because they cost a lot of money.
Yeah, you have to get over the price of everything when you're there. Otherwise, you're never going to have a good time, because you're only going to hear cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching every time you turn around.
And I don't think that you can enjoy that place if you try to cheap out. I remember my family going there, and my dad is a miser.
Yeah.
And we stayed in a really cheap hotel about a half hour away from Orlando. And we didn't buy any of the merchandise in the park. We bought it at knockoff places. And we got there early in the morning so that we didn't waste a penny on a second of being in the park. And we didn't get any ride hopper. We didn't overpay at all.
Yeah, you did the bare minimum that you could do once you get into the city.
It was an awful experience.
Well, that might inform why you went into the trip with sort of an edge, maybe.
My childhood can explain.
You definitely
a lot
didn't
of stuff.
grow up with the same affinity for it that I did, and the trips that I had, because I had a major suspension of disbelief. I didn't have any awareness of the financial considerations, just pure enjoyment from what was in front of me.
Oh, yeah. There was nothing to do with that. my dad used to not like to spend more time or money on anything that he didn't have to. So we drove like straight through to, I think we stopped once.
Yeah.
And I was like 8 or 9 on a drive down to Orlando.
Yeah.
We stopped in Macon, Georgia at some really sketchy, we always stayed in sketchy places.
Yeah.
Because they were cheap places. And we didn't stop at any bathrooms really at all. We only stopped to eat.
Yeah.
So the only time you could pee would be, or poop, would be in a bathroom while you were at a restaurant.
Yes.
We didn't do any rest stop stuff. We had a Folgers can that you could do your business in while we were still driving. And I just have it burnt into my memory.
Yeah.
My sister screaming and crying that she didn't want to sit on the can anymore.
Right.
Because me and my brother, it was no big
Easier.
deal. We just sat there on our knees and peed in the can.
Yeah.
She's sitting all of her weight on the rim of a Folgers can, just digging into her bottom.
Yeah, this whole experience from top to bottom sounds traumatic, and I don't. I get a greater sense. You should have told me all of this before we bought the tickets all those years ago, because I would have probably said, "Hey, man, let's go to Topgolf instead."
What lets you know? Yes, Topgolf would be awesome. We're doing something I'm completely under my own control.
Yes.
And I hear Topgolf is freaking fun.
I really don't even know what it is.
It's gamified driving range.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. The thing though is you have your answer in my response to that.
Yeah.
Because I was willing to do it anyway, because I do know that part of my apprehension for stuff is I know I'm going to be sick. That's the primary one. And I do have negative memories of stuff. But I know that those memories aren't negative of the park themselves.
Ah, well.
And so the parks, to me, there's always this good opportunity. I think that it doesn't always matter where you're at and what you're doing. It's always the company and the mindset that you're able to put yourselves in.
Yeah.
So I love my family and I like doing stuff with my family. And as long as we can try to take precautions to set ourselves up in a position where we can be relaxed, we can enjoy it, nothing's a barrier outside. We try to minimize the barriers and create a space for our kids to enjoy themselves and for us to enjoy ourselves as adults as well. I'm all about that experience.
Yeah.
On a conference trip, no kids, just a bunch of adults that I really enjoy hanging out with.
Yeah, and it was a fun group.
Yeah, like there's no baggage there.
Yeah.
Right? So ultimately, you can make me like this, but the conditions have to be right. I need to have like considerable control over it.
So the question is, I need a binary answer here.
Okay.
Jeff, do you now like theme parks?
I like theme parks.
Good enough. That's a point for me. This was good. I'm glad I was able to provide enough evidence and provide enough context for my affinity for them to help get you to a point where you can say that. So, thank you for joining us. I look forward to continuing this project, and I want to see what you have for me because I hate a lot of things.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna win this.